Thanks for joining us. And first of all, we're going to start with an introduction of who you are, what you did with your athletic career.
Thank you for having me. My name is Richard Adams, and I was a collegiate athlete in the sport of track and field all my life, really, from 4 to about 25. I attended two universities, Division One, Cal State Fullerton, and Purdue University.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the journey, your athletic journey? So basically how did you get in the sport, your various achievement, and sort of what level you were at the end of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was always kind of a runner, but I didn't start to get formal training. I was a little bit late in formal training. I didn't start to get formal training until I was about 13. And that's when I was at a prep school called Richardson Prep High in San Bernardino, California. And the school had a track team, and everybody pretty much was on the track team. Everyone had to run the 400 meters every morning, actually the girls had to run the 800 meters every morning. I don't know why. It was just the thing. And you were timed, and I transferred to Richardson Prep in the middle of the school year. And my actual first class was PE. And so I came out, the TA took me out. I met the PE teacher, the coach, and then he said, oh, well, before they were playing softball or something for PE that day. And he's like, oh, well, he has to go run the 440 first, and then he can come back. And so the TA took me out to the track. It was just him and me, and this huge track. And then he had like a stopwatch, and he was like, okay, you have to run all the way around as fast as you can go. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, go. And so I ran all the way around as fast as I could go. And I remember coming down the final stretch way, and I kind of had, and it seems a little corny, kind of like a slight out of body experience. I felt like when I finished this race, something in my life was going to change. And I crossed the finish line. He looked at the stopwatch and he was like, oh my God, I think you just broke the 6th grade record. Like it's 25 years old. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, great. So he didn't believe it. So we went back to the coach. The coach took a look at the time, and he was like, literally jumped off of his seat. And he was like, this can't be right, you messed up. And then I was like, well, I probably can do it again. And so we went back to the track and I ran it again. I ran actually like a few tenths of a second faster. And yeah, I broke the record. And so from there on, the coach was like, you have a real talent, you have a gift, you have to continue to develop it. You have a beautiful natural stride. And I think you have a future in this. And so I was like, great, that sounds amazing. And that was really kind of the first time that a coach had told me I had a talent, an extraordinary talent, it seemed. And so I got really interested. I started practicing, and I loved running the 400 every morning for PE, and I would always try to run faster and faster. I would always win. I was super competitive. Everyone's like, it's just the warm up, Richard. Why are you like running it like it's the Olympics every single time? I'm like, if I want to go to the Olympics, And so it takes hard work. And so I did it every single day, and I made the team. And we were going to go to a track meet called Mount San Antonio. It's where all the big top stars go and run. So from little kids start, I think, on Thursday or Friday, and then the weekend has literal professionals and Olympic champions and such, and they're all in town, so you get to meet them and interact with them. So I was so excited to go to that track meet, but a couple weeks before the track meet, I was like very still bullied in junior high, like a lot of people, and this bully, Andre, I'll never forget his name, was bullying me and kicking my seat on the bus. And I just got sick of it. And then we got into a fight, and I didn't win, but I fought back. And I also got in trouble, and I got like 60 demerits, and it disqualified me from going to this track meet. And I was absolutely devastated. Like I even saved my own allowance money to pay for the race entry fees and everything. But the coach was like, you have to learn from this. You have to grow from this. You can come back next year as a 7th and 8th grader, and you'll be fantastic. And that's exactly what I did. I qualified for the team again. I was the top in the school. I won all of my events, 400, 200, 400 relay, and the high jump. Even though I got really bad, I was still growing. I was going through a growth spurt at the time. And so I got really bad cramps in my calves, and my mom had to like massage me in between my jumps for high jump, but I still won. And then in my last race that I won, the 400, I won by a very large margin. And then all the private track coaches were like super excited. They literally like swarmed the track and like took me to the registration table. And I remember looking up at my coach in the stands, and he just gave me a thumbs up. He was like, "You're gonna be okay, kid," kind of thing. And I was like, wow. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of it all the way, until I, went to high school, made varsity as a freshman. I was captain of the team by my sophomore year. And then I went to state in California, which is very difficult to do. I won league, I was city champion. Yeah, it was just like this whirlwind, and it was just a direct path into college. However, I didn't get college scholarship offers I thought I would get. I didn't get that many national letter of intent sent to me. But I had a few, so I decided to go to Cal State Fullerton. It was far enough away from home, but still close. And I just where I started my collegiate track career.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing to have such talent and discover it and be discovered, and have, the coaches reach out to you and give you some, basically a path to go and follow. I think that's really exciting. Not a lot of kids get that. And how did you transition from your career in college to what was next? Was collegiate track the end of your collegiate career?
No, I ran 1 year professionally where I was able to make it to top 50 ranked in the world in the 400-meter hurdles. But at the time, unbeknownst to me, everybody except for me were on performance-enhancing drugs called the clear. And so I was like, why am I not moving up in the nation and in the world? Like, because track is a very time-limited sport, And all of a sudden you had just all of these runners coming out of retirement, or like, track really old, still competing at these ridiculous levels. So in America, we have a very strong collegiate and professional track team. You have even a shorter window than in other countries, I think, to really make your mark. And so I was just waiting for my opportunity, and it just seemed like it never came. I'm looking at like the national times, and the top, 5 or 6 people in the United States are also the top 5 or 6 people in the world. And so I'm just like, I have no shot at making a world team or an Olympic team in the time frame of my life. And so I realized pretty quickly that either I would have to retire or literally move to another country to make someone else's Olympic team to have an opportunity. And I just thought that was a bit extreme. And I decided to retire after that. I was happy. I held a few collegiate records at the time. I was dealing with some injuries that, any athlete that's had to deal with injuries, it's not like a regular injury that like a non-athlete might have. You have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. You have to go to physio. You have to do rehab. You still have to train. You have to wait till you get better before you can go 100%. You have this doubt in the back of your mind. If I go 100%, will I injure myself again? And it was just too stressful. I was just ready to graduate from college. And at the time I was in Indiana, and I just wanted to go home to California. And so I decided to, actually, I finished my senior indoor season, but I did not do my spring season because I was injured and I didn't want to do the rehab, and I knew I wasn't going to go on from there. So I transferred back to Cal State Fullerton my senior year, probably not the best decision I've made in my life, because I was at this big prestigious school, but I wanted my little brothers to see me graduate. I was still from a poor family, so the prospect of having a bunch of family fly all the way across the country, to see me graduate just probably wasn't a thing. And so I thought it was really important for my family to see me walk across the stage. And so I transferred back to Cal State Fullerton. I graduated, and then I was lost.
There is so much to discuss in your story, because so much of it is relevant to what's going on right now in sport, with cancellation of championship and delays with the Olympics. And a lot of athletes have been asking themselves, question about their future, their athletic career, what they do next. You know, you could have made, even not being in the top 5 in the US as a track runner, you could have still made a good professional career as an athlete for several years. And so I'm curious, what was your process and your mindset when you decided to, you know, to balance the two, the career and then moving on? You know, how long did that take, that process, and how did you come to that decision? And then how did you feel about that decision?
I did arrive to that decision rather quickly. I've always been very in tune with my feelings. I don't have a lot of doubt. I don't have regret, even when I have to make a big decision. So I knew deep down in my heart what it was going to take to stay at the level that I already was at, and certainly to get better. I would need to have an even deeper commitment than I had as a collegiate athlete. That meant, and I knew what that was. I mean, that meant like not eating chocolate for years and not drinking alcohol, not going certain places. And, you know, I just really didn't have that kind of love for the sport in my heart at the time. And so, and on top of, I didn't see the window of opportunity if I made such a great sacrifice that I would be able to thread the needle and, you know, be top 10 in the United States and make a world team or make an Olympic team. And so, you know, I had made junior Olympic teams before. I was already an All-American. I was like, Richard, you've had a great career. You did so much in such a short amount of time. You know, you don't have the resiliency to do what it really takes to go from top 50 in the world to, you know, top 10, top 15 in the US, that to have a shot. And so, you know, don't play yourself. Like, you know, call it a career and be fine with your decision. And I absolutely was. I was still depressed and sad about it, of course, but I knew that I was doing the right thing for myself.
It seems also that you were a pretty big role model for the rest of your family. Are you a first time college student in your family? And how did your family influence your decision as well?
I would say technically I am. I am the first person in my family to go to college immediately after high school. So there are certainly other people who took a couple years off to find themselves and then ended up going to college. And just a few. My aunt Lisa, my cousin Dion, and that's it that I know of. And then my mom actually went back to college when I was very young, as so was my brothers, and she got a few education degrees, but she was also someone who finished high school and then went directly into work. And she went to college to be an example for her 3 boys. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. And so I remember her saying, you know, if I want you guys to be educated, then I need to be educated myself. I remember her, you know, right around junior high saying, you know, I can't help you with your homework anymore because I graduated high school. That's all I did. And education has progressed. Like your 8th grade education was my 12th grade education in, you know, the 60s. So, you know, you're going to have to really study hard. And, you know, if you need help, we'll get tutors and such of that nature. So I knew that I would be the example for my younger brothers. But my mom was still the example for me.
Nice. So how did you feel after you retired from track? You know, what happened? Did you find jobs straight away? And what were your emotions and sentiment, you know, regarding your career and moving to the next stage?
Yeah, so I have a prop. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but like this
Nice.
is me. And this was actually the last time I jumped a hurdle. I was just practicing just one last time, just kind of having fun. And this college photographer came out and said, "Oh, I need to, you know, take pictures for my portfolio. Can I take pictures of you?" I was like, "Sure." Actually, this is like the last time I'm probably going to do this. So he did, and he sent me that and a couple of others, but it was the end for me. And so, to your question, I felt, like I said, sad about it. I felt depressed about it, but I was strong in my resolve and my decision. I think that helped me later. But after I was completely done, I had been a star athlete to that point for 12 years, which was my formative years. I was used to, you know, kind of being a mini celebrity on whatever campus I went to, wearing a jersey, being not only on a team, but being the captain of the team, doing press, just getting things kind of taken care of you, just a lot of support. And once hang your spikes up, well, that's what they say in track, that just almost goes away overnight. So I felt lost, and I felt like a part of my personality and character was no more. This power I had, this thing I could do with my body when I was in complete control over, was not something that I could do anymore that made me special. And so what is now special about me was the new journey. Was I smart enough? Did I have any other talents? And was it too late to develop them? Was all those things were going through my mind at the time.
I love that you're bringing up those questions, because I think status, in losing that status, is a big part of the transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's depending on the level of which you are at, but also the sport you're in. It really can impact your life pretty strongly post sport. What did you do? Did you stay in California? Did you have a job lined up straight away? What was your path after that? What did you fill up your time with?
This is really embarrassing. I did not fill my time up with anything. I moved back home to my parents' house, and I literally stayed in my room. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to be back in my hometown city, which I said I never would go back to. Dusty Bowl, San Bernardino, which I'd love. San Bernardino Heights, shout out. But I didn't want anybody to see me. I was still just trying to figure it out. And what I was going to do. I did not have a job prospect lined up. And I was just literally sitting in my room day after day for a few weeks, just thinking. And nothing was really coming to mind at the time. But one day my mom came into my room, and then she was like, "This is not okay. Like, you need to do something. Whatever support you need, I'll be your support, but you need to do something. You need to get out, basically." And so those were my marching orders. And so I had some friends that went to school in the Bay Area, and we were kind of in a little recession at the time. But the Bay Area has like a micro economy with Silicon Valley and the tech industry. And so I was like, "Okay, Mom, I have some friends up in San Francisco. I would like to go up there and like interview and see if it's for me, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know where I'm going to stay." And then she was like, "Just call around some friends, couch surf, whatever. Don't pay to stay anywhere really." And then she bought me like a little car, like a Toyota. It was like 1980 something Toyota, but like Toyotas never stopped working, so it's fine. And like I packed up my stuff that can fit in that little car, and I drove 500 plus miles to San Francisco, and I stayed with a few friends, and I got a job at a Italian meat store called AG Ferrari's in the Castro. And I started building a tribe. I got a job. David gave me a job, like gave me a job. He was like, "What do you know about Italian meats and cheeses?" And I was like, "Nothing," like at all. He's like, "You're hired." And so I was like, "Okay." So I worked there, and then I got a little place in the Sunset District in San Francisco. Yeah, so I started to get breaks and to find like little bubbles in San Francisco.
And was those jobs obviously were not planned. And did you start refining what you liked and disliked and what you wanted to do as you went through these different jobs?
Yeah, I was trying to take a little bit of everything that I learned and discover little pieces of myself that were maybe repressed because I was this jock all my life. And so I realized that I was a personable person, that I was funny. I could make jokes even when I wasn't trying to. And so in sales, that helps you. If someone's just walking, perusing through like a touristy neighborhood like the Castro, they go into an Italian meat store, they're not really going to buy meat or cheese or anything like that. But like if someone engages you and they're like, "Oh my God, this is really good," I would just get off kind of on the chase of the sale, like, you know, to make someone buy something that they ordinarily wouldn't buy. And so David was like, you know, you might have a career in sales. You might want to start looking for that. He was a friend. We hung out on top of him being my boss. And I was like, okay, David. So I actually started to interview at real companies, and then it kind of took off from there. I got a job at a startup that was in a high growth mode, that was very profitable. I had no idea the opportunity I had just stumbled into. And so I got the job, and I quit the Italian, you know, food store. Not right away, but, you know, pretty soon after, because it was a full time, the schedules just couldn't work. And then I started my sales career in commercial real estate marketing.
So that's really interesting. You know, you had that opportunity, you took it. Obviously, you were open to it. You took it. I'm curious now how this relates to your athletic career from a perspective of transferable skills into that sales role. But also, this is a very different schedule to what you were used to. And I'm curious about how that worked.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start there. So the schedule was different. So LoopNet, I definitely still describe as my first big boy job. The starting hours are 7:30 a.m. like at work, not waking up, which is, you know, I don't even think I routinely woke up at 7:30 as a senior. I avoided classes that even started at 9 a.m. So it was a hard left turn to get myself situated that early in the morning consistently, Monday through Friday. And I was still rather young. I was like 23 or 4 or something like that. So I was still learning these things, like how to be a professional, and to do professional things, and that consistency is professionalism too. And so luckily the company had hired a bunch of people my age. And so they knew that it would take coaching to get people to arrive on time, and meetings and things of that nature. And there was a long runway for at least years even, you know, so, you know, they finally was like, if you're late, it's going to start affecting your commission. And so that was one of the things, like, if you're late, don't even come to work, was one of the rules that they put in. And I had to pull that lever one time. It's like, hey, Wayne, I'm stuck in, you know, the financial district in San Francisco, and the Muni's late, and there's some issue, and I cut this too close, and I'm not going to be on time, so I'm just not going to come. And you know, you just can't, obviously that can't work in sales. You need to get to work on time. So yeah, I figured it out, and I learned from that, and I grew. And so yeah, that's and how I started to apply my athletic role was that sales is a sport. You're chasing something, you're competing, there's a team, and that's how the company orientated all the employees. I was on first the Southwest team, and then the Midwest team. And so I had a team, and we had a goal, and we were competing against the other teams to see who had, you know, the highest sales number. And this was a really fun young company, and they would take us out to, like, you know, the ballpark and on boats and at bars and restaurants and things when we would do well. And it was really, really fun.
I think this is a really interesting parallel, because when you're a startup, it's very similar. Like you said, it's sport. Sales is sport, but startup is a sport too. And it's very similar to your career athletically, because you immediately see the result of what you're doing. You immediately see the growth, and you immediately see the reward. I think that's a quite interesting place to find yourself into right after college. It's pretty similar to what you were doing. Would you agree with that?
I would. It's the startup world is it's a track meet and a marathon. So I was you have to run fast and jump hurdles, but you know, there are ups and downs, just like in sport. You know, you can be working really hard and you just can't get that breakthrough. You can't in track, you can't get that next personal best, and you start to doubt yourself, like, maybe I've reached my personal best and there are no more personal bests after this, no matter how hard I work. Like and you're, you know, you have to kind of push through that. And so in sales, you know, sometimes your numbers are down and you're like, I'm doing the exact same thing that I was doing 2 months ago when I was number one in the office, and now, you know, I'm near the bottom and everyone can see it. We had meetings too, which was also that accountability. You know, we had like weekly meetings, I want to say, where there was like a ranking, and these are the people in green, and these are the people in yellow, and these are the people in orange, and these are the people who might get fired. And so you better get yourself together. And I was both in the green and the red at times. I stayed more in the kind of the yellow area. I wasn't the best salesperson at LoopNet by any means, but it was just, I was still learning how to sell and learning how to overcome hurdles. I was probably too nice of a sales guy. That's fine. But, to get that aggressive, to get to the green, you have to really push and push and push. And I didn't naturally have that acumen in my personality.
So you talked about workload and resiliency and consistency, and I think those are really important. So as athletes work really hard, they have a full-on schedule, especially if you're a student athlete, you pulling basically double hours every day. And we know how to do that. You've been trained all these years to do that. And it comes, somewhat naturally. And I think there is this misconception that when you graduate from school, maybe the other areas of work are not as hard, but the reality, and you learned that pretty quickly, is that if you want to be successful in anything, sport or something else, you've got to work the hours and you've got to work as hard, if not more. And it seems that that's something you learned straight away working at LoopNet. And yeah, I'm curious if this is something you expected, and also why do you think student athletes perhaps don't know that they're going to have to work as much? I see a lot of disbelief from former athletes who retired and, after a few years realized that they're going to have to pull their worst like they did in sport.
I think I didn't expect it because you're so used to winning all the time and a certain level of success. But I can be the best track and field athlete in the world. I could be Carl Lewis. I could be Flojo. I could be anyone. But then you put me in another sport like tennis or figure skating, and I'm absolutely terrible. I'm not a bad athlete. I'm not athletic. I just haven't trained these muscle groups to be able to perform at a world-class level or a high level in this sport. And so transitioning from whatever sport you're doing into the workforce is just a new sport. And so it's not that you're bad or that you can't transfer all this hard work and talent and skills and leadership skills that you've been building in your sport. It's just that you're now in a totally new arena and you're starting at the bottom. And it may not come as naturally to you as your sport did, soccer or tennis or track or swimming or whatever it was. It may, the thing about athletic gifts is they present themselves kind of spontaneously and randomly, and it's something that everyone's doing. And I remember one of my childhood friends in high school, Lindsay Parnell, was a rock star soccer player. And I would go to her games and she could make a goal from like half the field. Like the boys couldn't even do that. And like when you see someone do some like superhuman thing, they're superhuman, like almost like literally. And then you can see them do something else and you're just like, oh wow, Lindsay cannot dance. Like why doesn't this coordinate? Like she has such control and she was so, beautiful and fluid and just literally ran circles around the other athletic girls on the soccer field, but then there was something that she couldn't do. So I think athletes have to make that same parallel that I'm really great at this, but if I changed to a different sport, I might not be as great. And so you just have to work at it.
I think this is a really good image because you said something I really liked. You said you discover your gift or your talent by accident. And then you go into a career and you have to be intentional about searching what you like, what you want to do, and put effort into it. And I think that's probably the biggest change is that you have to explore, make twists and turns to figure out where you're going next. During that transition period, whatever long it took, what were your biggest challenges?
Oh gosh. So how long did it take? It took about a year and a half from when I finally got to LoopNet. And I was, first of all, very lucky. I was a part of a very special company. that was on this amazing journey. I was like higher under 40 or something, and the San Francisco office alone grew to over 200 employees. And so I was a part of that hyper growth. And so I got really lucky to just go from, a successful, collegiate career to a little bit of a lull to something else that was on its way to becoming successful. And I think that for me was the calculated risk I took, and then it paid off. The length of the time was important for me to explore and grow, I think, but it was very uncomfortable.
Well, why was it so uncomfortable? Can you explain further? Like, what were those challenges? What did you struggle with?
Ego, super
Mhm.
ego, the id, all of it, all the psychology, because I was, really good at something for such a long time, and I knew exactly how to be good at it. I could beat people. When you're in track and field, there's not a lot of props or anything like that. You're usually running in a straight line or in a circle or oval. And you can feel it. When you run by someone, you can feel them give up. You're like, oh, I don't got to worry about this person because they're just not gonna. And it happens to you too. When someone like blows by you, you're like, I'm just not ready today to do that. So it was just like I was average, and so I had to get comfortable in that space, and it was uncomfortable because I had this ego, I had this inflated ego and image of myself, and I needed to, I had a chip on my shoulder. And sometimes having pride in yourself is a good thing. Having too much pride in yourself and thinking too highly of yourself constantly is a problem. And I think that is something that holds people back in the transition. And when you're an athlete, you have to believe in yourself. Like, it's the number one thing. You have to believe in yourself when no one else does. Even when you don't, deep down, you have to still project this confidence, because you may be still ranked number one, but deep back in your mind, like, my hamstring sore. It's like it may be like yanked a little bit. I know I'm not going to be able to do my best today, but they don't know that. I still, like, I have some of these boys beat before I get to the line. But if they see me not, practicing or doing my normal warm up or like grimacing in pain, they're going to get the idea in their head, which I don't want, that they may have a chance to beat me today. And I don't want to lose to someone I've never lost to before, because when they start beating you that one time, they have confidence and they're going to be harder to beat later down the road. You always want to keep them down.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sounds like a lot of mental game and just self-talk throughout the race. I mean, you're fighting against yourself, and then you're fighting against the person on either side of you.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's a good analogy for life, is that everyone's sort of in a race or doing something and fighting to get to the finish line, and everyone's working hard. And I think, though, in track, the difference between first and last is less than a second a lot of times. And so you think that you don't have a lot of time, but when outside of that, paradigm, there's actually a lot of time for you to grow. It's not a split second, so if it doesn't come immediately, and that, I think that, to your earlier question, that was also something that I had to reorient in my mind. It's the concept of time that, I now have the rest of my life potentially to get really, really good at something. Whereas when you're an athlete, every athlete knows you can never, ever, Father Time is undefeated, right? So it doesn't matter how good you are, at some day, your day is going to come. But in life, if you're lucky to have a long life, it's not this finite, I have to be an Olympic athlete by 25. And if I don't make, I have two Olympiads to potentially go after, and then that's clearly it. And that's not exactly how your professional career can go. You can be great at 40, you can be great at 50, you can be great at 60, you can have your breakthrough at 70. Like, it's just this new time frame.
That's really interesting. We haven't talked a lot about this, that the time changes after you retire from sport. If you were to retire again, would you do things differently, or would you prepare differently for your transition?
I don't think that I would do anything different because I just don't think that I don't live life in regret. I think everyone's on a journey, and I really do own and accept my decisions that I make, whether they're right or they're wrong. I made them, you know, and I have to stand by them. So I wouldn't change anything. I definitely would have prepared better if I knew how to. I just assumed, I don't know what I assumed or thought, but I didn't give it enough thought. So that's one thing that you have to, that would encourage anybody watching this, is that start to prepare for life after retirement. There are so many athletes, even hugely successful athletes, that are already businessmen and women. So follow that model in your own way. You don't just have to be an athlete. And while you have this platform, it's actually probably the best time for you to try to do something else. Maybe it will even de-stress you and give you the needed physical and mental break that you need so that you can be the best at your sport, while you're also at the same time preparing to do something else. I think a great example of that would be Venus and Serena Williams, who turned pro when they were children, and they immediately started businesses and they did newspapers, and they just kept on doing all these things. And now they both are like, very much matured in their sport, but they both have these fantastic several other business business opportunities that they started for themselves. And so no one's wondering, well, what happens when Serena retires? Like, Serena is an investor now. She has multiple companies, her wealth is ridiculous. And you don't need that kind of level of success to start to prepare early.
Do you have an example or suggestion for athletes that are not quite at the level of Serena? Like, if I'm a student athlete in college, are there other things that I can do to prepare outside of obviously investing my money as a professional athlete?
Yeah. I wasn't really about the money. It was about the energy that you have now as a young person and as a collegiate athlete. That energy won't last forever. Actually, every single day that you get a little bit older, you lose a little bit of that energy. It's hard to hold on to. It's hard to stay in that tip-top condition. So while you're at probably the zenith of your physical abilities, you can use that extra energy to get involved in something new. The great thing about collegiate athletes now is that all of you have a platform on social media. You have fans, you have supporters that are following you. Find another passion immediately, and start to diversify what you're interested in if you already haven't. Always have a plan A, B, C, D, E, all the letters, and set other goals for different decades of your life, just like you're doing for your athletic career. So, find a date in your mind and that you probably will retire if everything goes well, and then after that, start planning for the rest of your life. And that starts now. So, if you want to be a business person, then, start making business connections. If you want to be a philanthropist, if you want to start a foundation, start volunteering for there. Don't wait, start it now. Figure out how to start it now. There are plenty of organizations that'll teach you how. But I think the most important thing is to find a secondary and a tertiary passion and pursue it with as much vigor and energy as you've done your athletic career.
I love that. And I love that you're bringing up the energy, because that is something that is really strong when you retire. You're flooded with all that extra energy that you used to have, consumed, that you used to consume on the field, in the pool, wherever that is. And redirecting that into something else is really important. How do you find your balance? You've been way out of retirement from sport. Do you still do any sport? How do you stay physically active and well?
Yeah, in my late 20s, I came briefly out of retirement, and I did one track meet in San Francisco. And then I took up tennis in college. And so to the chagrin of my coaches, I actually took like actual tennis lessons and classes to get like the basics down. I really enjoyed it. I'm a really big fan of the sport of tennis. I like the mental aspect of it. and it was very similar to track, just being really mentally strong, performing, learning, figuring out a way to win when you're not at your best. And like, like tennis and like track, there's so many matches or so many races, you can't win them all. It's about winning the right time. And so, yeah, so I picked that up. In my mind, I still feel like I'm that athlete and I can jump these hurdles. I know that I can't. I hold on to that confidence a little bit because it helps me at other things. So it is still a part of my ego, and it still is the underlying thing that supports my confidence, which is why I think it's so important for people who are underserved or underprivileged to take part in athletics at any level, especially young girls and women, because it gives you confidence. I think all the studies prove it for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's an awesome message. And I can certainly relate to the muscle memory. I think every athlete sort of have this image and visualization in their head, right? That of what they used to do.
Yeah.
It's so vivid. It stays
So
with you
vivid.
forever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like a limb that I feel like it's still there, but I intellectually know that it's not. I think it's right. It's the muscle memory. It's a way. It's mental strength, really. Because and as an athlete, it's always mind over matter. I won races when I had the flu. I won races when I was injured. I won races when it was so cold outside and raining, and the last thing I wanted to do was be running around a circle with a bunch of other people chasing me, but like I did it, and it was just mind over matter that I'm not cold. I remember one race it was so cold, so incredibly cold. And in track, you're basically naked. You have this flinglet. It's very revealing. Like, it's so cold. And I remember there was a delay with the timing technology, and all the other guys on the track, they like sat down or got in their coats or whatever. And I just stood there. I just went into this place in my mind, and I just stood there, and I just like kind of went back and forth in the same spot. And I was just like, I just kept on doing the same routine in my mind, because normally when you go to the blocks, it's really quick. It's like cassette, start, go, gun, goes off. And so I just stayed in that mental space of readiness, and like, it wasn't even that long. It was maybe like 10 minutes or something, but in sports, that just feels like an eternity when you're ready to go. And I won. I broke a record. I like smashed them. But I was the only one. I knew I was the only one on that track that particular day that stayed absolutely focused. And I can apply that to other things. It's like, when the craziness of my business is going around me, I can focus on the most important thing and just stay in the moment, even if I have to deal with the craziness. And I think that's a part of the mental toughness that stays with you and carries over.
Absolutely. And that's a great example of how you transfer your skills from sport, and especially the mental skill. I mean, this is really what you transfer into your career next.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard, thanks for sharing your story and getting a little bit more personal with your transition and how that went. I think this is going to help a lot of people, especially those that are running track today.
Yeah, thank you. And also, this didn't really come up, but I think to just share with everyone, I am definitely a part of the LGBTQ plus community. So there was that layer of being a collegiate athlete and a professional athlete a little bit later, and just know that all parts of your personality can help you, and to always live your truth, and to be authentic with yourself and all others, and you'll find your strength, and you'll find your way, and keep working hard. Hard work always pays off.
I love that you're bringing that up. It's so important. I've heard so many athletes that felt that they couldn't always be their full self at practice for whatever reason. And I think this is changing. I'm hoping this is changing, because we need that. We need athletes to be their full self and people to be their full self wherever they are, whether it's on the playing field or in the office, because that's where we're going to get the full potential of everybody and their best contribution. So I think this is really, really important. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Richard.